All right. My name is Chris Campbell. I'm a practicing CPA and I work with small businesses and individuals to help them pay the least amount of taxes possible while keeping them out of jail. So today I wanted to talk real quick about charitable contribution. I had a client that reached out to me and had a question about donating time. Apparently, they were told by someone or yes, some other colleague or someone that they know, they had mentioned that they volunteer for an organization. And what they do is they donate their time and write off their time spent working with this organization by coming up with their work rate and multiply that by the number of hours that they spent with this organization. And they turn this into a deduction on their taxes. So, client had asked if this is something that they're able to do. And the answer here is absolutely not. You cannot donate your time, or as you can always donate your time, but there is no deduction for a donation of time on your tax return. If this were the case, you were able to do that, everybody would say that their rate is $10,000 an hour and go down to your local soup kitchen, spend a day or two, and then next thing you know, you're writing off half of your income basically spent on a couple of hours working at a soup kitchen or something like that. So that is absolutely not allowed. Another thing that's great with that is how do you determine what your rate is? So the IRS is not going to get into determining what your compensation rate is. They don't get into that. So you absolutely cannot do that. Now, things that you can do when you're working with organizations, because there are deductions that you can take that are associated with working with an organization. One is money that you actually spend working with the organization. If there are supplies that you may purchase doing your voluntary duties, let's say if you're in a soup kitchen or something like that, you have to buy supplies to serve, or maybe their aprons or something like that that you may purchase in your assistance in doing those. That is a legitimate expenditure that can be deducted. That is a deduction on your return. Mileage that's associated with working with this organization. So if you're driving back and forth to this place, or if you're required to drive around for the purposes of the organization, you take your standard mileage rate. It fluctuates every year, but in the neighborhood of about 62 cents a mile, that again would be deductible. So the expenses and things that are associated with doing the volunteer work, your travel, things of that nature, that can all be deducted as a charitable contribution. But I repeat, you cannot donate your time and deduct your time, as you can't make your time a deduction. Now, another key point here is to make sure that the organization has to be a properly registered 501c3 slash nonprofit organization. So organization is not a nonprofit 501c3, then it's no good. Then whatever expenditures you have or donations or whatever the case may be, it's no good. Can't deduct it. And then another point that I wanted to make here was political party donations are not charitable contributions. They are not deductible. So working for your favorite politician, whether that be locally or nationally, that's no good. So it has to be a legitimate 501c3 charity to be deducted. So keep those things in mind when making deductions for charity. I know that's one place where folks try to get a little aggressive with making deductions, but understand that you can't do that. So you do have a lot of leeway with charitable donation. It's a lot easier to be aggressive with, let's say, donations of property. If you really want to try to max out or really take advantage of the charitable donations, donate things, donate property, go to Goodwill, Salvation Army, get a receipt. They're very lenient. They're very liberal with the receipts, so you can always get the receipts to show that you've made the donation, but they are quite liberal with figuring out what the value of the property is when you make the donation. There's a lot of flexibility there, a lot of room to be aggressive there with figuring out the donations there. So you have a better chance of making donations and doing them throughout the year versus on the route of donating time. All right. So that's a quick primer on making charitable donations. Hopefully this was helpful. So that's all for now. So if you have any more questions about this topic or any other tax or accounting related questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. That's all for now. I'll talk to you in the next one.